people, the headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Welcome back, everyone. We first told you about the problems with Maple Tower in April. The high-rise in Avondale is owned and run by the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. Residents had plenty of concerns about their health and safety because of the poor conditions there. And after our report, inspectors from the fire department, health department, and buildings and inspections found scores of violations. So, after all of that activity, have things improved? WCPO reporter Lucy May has been covering all of this. Lucy's joining us this morning. Thanks so much for being here. Well,
my pleasure.
Did anything get better?
Yes, things have been fixed. We hear both. CMHA told us that everything's been fixed. The residents say that's not exactly the case, that there are still problems. Part of the issue is that even after some things are repaired, they break again or something else goes wrong. There are some kind of chronic problems with the building. The legal aid attorney who's been working with residents really wants to make sure, especially that a fire department inspector gets back in the building to make sure those fire violations are fixed, because those are really life and death matters.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because some of these things are okay. Yeah, fine. I can see like that's something that's just annoying and needs to be fixed. Right. But some of this is really life and death.
Yes, it really is. And
what are we talking about specifically?
Well, and this is going to sound, this didn't seem like a big deal to me, but there are doors. Every door in every apartment in Maple Tower is supposed to be a fire door. And when a resident goes in and swings open the door, it's supposed to completely close on its own. So it's supposed to shut very securely. The reason that's important is because if there's a fire in the hallway, that will keep the fire outside of the apartment for as long as 30 minutes. And vice versa, if there's a fire in one apartment, it can stop the spread of it to the hallway for 30 minutes. In a high-rise, when the firefighters need time to get to residents, to evacuate people, to figure out what's going on, that 30 minutes can be very important. A lot of these doors don't close. And a lot of these residents are elderly people. Some of them have disabilities. And although it doesn't seem like a big deal to pull your door shut after you go in, it's the fire code calls for those doors to shut automatically when they go in. So that was a big thing that didn't occur to me was a big deal, but is.
And we're talking about a high-rise here. Not a lot of high-rise apartment buildings in the city of Cincinnati. And this one's fairly tall. And as you mentioned, some of these folks they're on some of the upper floors too.
Right, they're on some of the upper floors. Some of them use wheelchairs or walkers. And the other issue is that there were paperwork problems with fire extinguishers. There was difficulty for the fire department to get to hose access points that they needed to get to. So again, these are things that as a homeowner I don't think about because I don't own a high-rise. I don't have these kinds of things, but they're really important in a building like this, especially when it's so many elderly people with disabilities.
And we really should think about the fire department as well. Those folks, if there is a fire and it's a high-rise and they have to run into that building, if they don't have proper access to hoses and extinguishers and things like that that could help them save their own lives, not just that someone else's.
Exactly.
That's important too.
Yeah, and one of the fire department employees that I talked to noted that the ladders on the Cincinnati's fire trucks don't go all the way to the 9th story.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, which is, Maple Tower is a 9-story building and they'll go to maybe 7 or 8. So the people on the very highest floors especially need to have a very safe evacuation plan, and all those systems in place need to be working.
And are they?
Well, it depends on who you ask. So CMHA says everything's been fixed. It's all in order. Some of the residents say, no, we talked to a lady who showed us that her door doesn't shut. They came and fixed it once, and a few hours later it wasn't working again. So it's a matter of probably having inspectors go back out and check things all over again.
I guess the most cynical in our community could say, hey, these people are lucky to have housing. This, there are folks living on the street, they're lucky to have housing, but just because you live in low-income housing doesn't mean it should be a shambles or shouldn't be safe.
Right, and one of the ladies we talked to said, look, everybody deserves a quality of life, even if you're low income. And the other way to look at it is that, this is government subsidized housing, so taxpayers are helping to pay for part of this bill, so you would kind of assume that people would have decent conditions under those circumstances. Again, CMHA says they've fixed it and everything's fine. We're waiting to kind of make sure that all the inspections come back and show that's the case.
So you're going to stay on top of this?
Yes.
We know you will. Lucy May, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.